back out here again. It's Thursday night. Got off work a little bit ago, went home, got some food. Just having to do some cram session tonight. I got this fellow over here. It needs a little bit of attention. Got everything else sitting there ready to go back together. I was out here last night. I had finished assembling the head. Let's see, this is Thursday. Wednesday, Tuesday, I had finished assembling the head. And then last night I stopped out. I was busy earlier in the night, but I stopped out just to get something done. And I set up the valve clearance on the exhaust side. So that's all set. I'm going to do the intake cam tonight, get valve clearances all set with that. And then I'm going to bolt the head onto the motor. I'll degree the cams, and then I will set piston to valve clearance and pull it back apart, and then I'll put in the new head gasket. I'll check piston to valve with a old head gasket because they're already, it's an old, not torched up, but still complete head gasket. I keep used ones on hand of just different thicknesses. So if I have piston to valve issues, whatever, I got some adjustability. I know what to go with or what to change to. So when I get that figured out, I'll put in a new head gasket and then torque everything down and compress it. But it's kind of nice to have a used gasket on hand to set all that, because I don't have to fully torque the head. I got to really crank on it to get it to compressed thickness. It's already pretty much there. So then when I put the new gasket in, torque everything down, it'll be good to go. And then double check the cam settings, and then this thing should be ready to slam back home in the frame. So let's get cracking tonight. Here's the old head gasket with everything still set, ready to go. You're going on that head, and then we'll bolt everything down and double check piston to valve with let's use modeling clay. Works pretty slick. So I have my tub O valve shims here, if you think I haven't done a few cylinder heads. It's about every size imaginable for a 1000 head. So it's nice to have stuff on hand, I guess. So I went ahead and got all of my buckets pulled out on the intake side after putting the shims I had in the head originally in there. And with all the new stuff, put the cam back in and measured it, and had a couple of them come up a little bit tighter than I'd like. So it was down here, was measuring what shims were in there, and I ended up, I had to shuffle a few around, and then I replaced 4 to get what I needed. So I should have all consistent valve clearance or valve lash all the way across the board on the intake side. So we'll put it all back together and measure it one more time. So I got the intake cam back in now. I'm going to run through and double check the valve lash. Now this is the second set of shims I've got in here. So I did my first measurement, figured what I needed to change, and made the changes. So now we'll go through and double check and make sure everything's cool. Got my feeler gauge set up in the ranges I use. So I'm shooting for about 7th thou. There it is. 7th thou, we're good on that one. Roll it over to the next cylinder. Same thing, shooting for 7th thou. Spec is like 4 to 8 thou. I run things a little bit looser because it'll give things a chance to settle in without getting overly tight, and still stay within spec. We're good on that one. If you're wondering why I'm using channel locks to rotate the cam, the tips of the channel locks are actually cut to fit into the teeth of the cam gear, so it actually grabs the gear perfect to roll it. That one's somewhere around between 7 and 8. Last one. That one felt a little snug on 8 thou. So I got 7 and 8 in my hand here. So there's 7, 7, 8, a tight 8. So about 7, 7.5 thou on that one. So we're still within spec I was shooting for. Now we'll take it apart and get ready to bolt it on the motor sitting behind me here. We'll rotate the cam over to kind of a relaxed spot first. Makes it easier to get the cam cap off. There it is. Cordless Milwaukee 1/4 inch drive air ratchet, well, electric ratchet, makes this job a breeze. Got to kind of go little by little back and forth, loosening the cam cap. All the bearings are on that side, and then because it's one piece, you got to kind of loosen it all up little by little so you don't get a twist or a bend and break it. So that's why I was jumping back and forth, loosening all those bolts little by little. That's a done cylinder head. After all that disaster, it's complete again. So let's get it on. So now, before I put the head on the motor here, I take modeling clay. Get the stuff at, there, you can see that, Sculpey. I get the stuff at Hobby Lobby. This block was $2.37, and I've had it for about 5 years. What I'll do is peel off a little block or a little piece of this, and I'll put one piece in each valve pocket and one small dot right above the flattest spot of the piston, and that'll give me squish. So I got piston to head clearance measurement. And then I'll take a mic, and it's not exactly exact, but this is the quick way, and I'm really just looking for reassurance. I don't run my shit on the ragged edge of super tight tolerances where I have to worry a ton about interference, but this gives me numbers like I can visually see. I can tell, you know, I have 40 thou piston to valve. That's a good number. It beats running 5 thou and hoping that I don't get interference if I do happen to float a valve or something. I miss a shift, or blows a tire off or something and wicks to the rev limiter, which I think is what caused this problem in the first place. But it's just a quick way to reference your clearances quick. You can do the math way too, which I kind of will back myself up, but this gives you a quick visual right away before I get into setting it up final. Pulling the stator cover off right now so I can get to the bolt to rotate the crank over. Eventually I'll pull the scavenge pump off on this side when I go to set up my debris wheel. For right now, this is the quickest way to get to a bolt to actually roll the motor over. Alright. Just bringing a piston up to the top so it's easier to work with. And getting a clean extra coolant or water out of the cylinders while I'm at it. Alright, set our modeling clay in here. It doesn't take a ton of this stuff to figure out what you're doing. You put too much in there, it'll basically hydraulic the motor. Ah man, I got oil on it. Damn it. Those 5 pieces total I'm putting in here. 4 valve pockets and 1 to check squish on the flattest, highest part of the piston. That's it. Until next time with that. So I'll show you what this looks like. That's it. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then number 5 is up there. Doesn't take much. So now I'll get the head on and then double check our measurements. So I'm gonna set the head down, tighten everything down, degree the cams, then I can go ahead and check my valve clearances, from my piston to head, all that. We'll get this thing bolted down and then get on it. All I got in the oil can here is it's a little bit of assembly lube with the oil, same oil that I run in the motor. So let's get on a little bit of everything and then I can go through and torque everything down. And because I'm starting with a used head gasket this go around, I will not take everything up to full torque spec. I'm basically just going to tighten it down to about maybe 20 foot-pounds to make sure everything's flat, and then I can go through and do my process for all my measuring. And once we put it back together, finally, that's when I'll torque everything for good with the new head gasket. Where are my pliers? I got fat sausage fingers. I can't get these washers in without a pair of pliers. Just setting them down at the bottom. be quick because I don't drop them down on the motor. Kind of stabbing them in there. I'm going to run these down with the electric impact just to get everything set. Saves a little time, but then I'll go through and torque it because I'm not going to take them up to torques, any kind of a high torque spec right now. Just running them down to the stop. Now we'll take them to the 20 foot-pounds I was talking about. I've got a glare on it, I can't see shit. There you go. Like I said, this is just to get the thing set and flat on an old gasket so that I can measure everything out. Alright, that's 20. Now what you're not going to see is me degreeing the cams right now, because it's just a frickin' process and I won't be talking much because there's a lot of numbers going on. But I'll show you part of it when I go to final do everything after I double check all my clearances here. So I have marks that I put on the cams after I degreed them last time. So in theory, if nothing moved on the adjustable sprocket, so I put this thing back together, the cams should be where they were when they came out of the motor. And that'll be my starting reference point. So I'll roll the motor over once from there, and then I'll put a degree wheel on it, and then I'll double check my numbers. If everything's the same, I'm going to leave it alone. That's when we'll pull it apart, put a good new head gasket back in it, and then we'll go from there. And then when I do the final check of the cams after it's together for its final go round, I'll show you some of the cam degreeing on that. There it is. It's a quick test. So obviously you can see how everything kind of smushed out, smushed out kind of flat where the valves kind of pushed on everything, and then that's where that came up pushed into the cylinder head. So I'll get my mic out and I'll actually measure that stuff as it sits there, and then I'll just measure it until I get just a little impression from the caliper on the modeling play. That'll give me a real good reference number, and right now I can tell you I'm not even close to having interference issues here. So I'll just get some measurements here so I got peace of mind, I got a hard number to reference, and then we can go ahead and put everything together and final degree the cams. And when I say final degree the cams, I mean I degree them to check the clearance. Then when I take everything out and put it back in, I will re-degree them and at least check them. I might not have to make any adjustments, but I always, every time the cams go in, they get degreed. I don't take nothing for granted that it's going to stay the same. So if you've ever had to set cam timing on a 1000, you line that little mark up there on the top side of that bolt. It's like there's a line on that face of that washer, and then there's a little groove in the case there. So you line that up, and then that gets you top dead center. And then if you have factory cams, you line up all your cam timing marks and everything. I've done this so many times that I actually, when I string it up the exhaust side first, I zip tie the chain when I get my marks lined up across there, and then that way the chain can't actually jump off when I'm trying to get everything lined up. And then get that light out of the way. Holy buckets. So then you can see there's another zip tie here when I get over to where the intake cam needs to be. And then I got my marks that I've done this so many times on these that I can just line all this up straight across. And then from this pin where the zip tie is actually hiding, that pin I even marked 14 teeth. So you know, if you count over blah 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 over to here, you get 14 teeth. That's my base setting. And then these sprockets are slotted, so I can go ahead and degree the cams in from there. I can see nothing's really moved as far as I don't see any witness marks. But I'm going to go ahead and get everything set up and check that tomorrow. I think I'm calling it a night. I worked today and I'm just getting tired, so we'll start fresh in the morning with degreeing the cams. That way I can kind of focus a little better, and then get it in and hopefully get it running by Friday night. So thanks for watching.